Good morning once more, book lovers of the internet. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am Book Nerd 802, and in this video I am going to be reviewing yet another book. Now, this one, as I mentioned in my previous video, is called The Magician of Tiger Castle by Lewis Sachar, and I bought this one during my trip to Wales last summer from the Waterstones outlet in Llandudno. As you can see, it is a signed exclusive edition, very pretty sprayed edges. I'm pretty sure I showed you this as well during my May TBR. And of course, I have Lewis Sachar's signature over there. And I've been a fan of this author for a very, very long time now. And I was introduced to him when I was in Form 2 or Grade 8 for the new gens. And we did holes together at school. And I had a blast reading that book. I think I must have read it about 3 or 4 times. It is insane to me how I might eventually be teaching the book myself, because I'm quite a big fan of Lewis Sachar's work. But yeah, I really went into this one thinking that I would enjoy it. I mean, the title is brilliant. The concept is fantastic. The cover art is delightful. But whilst reading the story, I was like, this is absolute trash. In either case, this one has approximately uh, 310 pages, perhaps. Yeah, something along those lines. 310 pages, and I rated this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Honestly, it doesn't really have much of a high rating on Goodreads either. And it is a very, very recent publication as well. Lewis Sachar's most recent book, as a matter of fact. And yeah, I really expected to enjoy this considering how much of a fan of holes I am, but it just did not hit the mark. I got hints of Geronimo Stilton from Anatole, who is the narrator, and the titular magician himself, the main character, although physician perhaps does suit him better. And literally, I was also reminded of literally any basic fantasy story I've ever come across. It was quite generic and underwhelming, and the conclusion was far from satisfying. There wasn't much going on either, and the plot just seemed to be all over the place. There didn't really seem to be any direction for where the characters were headed, for what was about to happen. I mean, with holes, everything tied together so well. With this one, I was just yearning for more. There just wasn't that satisfaction. Nothing seemed to click in place quite well. And I just got the impression that Lewis Sachar did not really have a direction for this book and just did what felt right instead of thinking things through and fixing the parts which could have been better, almost as though as he had some sort of deadline which he needed to submit the book by. The general idea is also very simple, whereby Princess Tulia is forced to marry a man she does not like in order to unite two kingdoms together, and falls in love with another man instead who doesn't really have any power whatsoever, called Pito. But considering that Anatole is supposedly such a good magician, couldn't he have just convinced the king um, to unite the two kingdoms together without a marriage, perhaps? I mean, that really wasn't delved into. I mean, I understand that there has to be some sort of offspring involved, but couldn't Anatole just have convinced the right people um, to take on the roles that were necessary in order to unite the kingdoms anyway? And ultimately, Pito becoming perhaps the most powerful person within the kingdom and falling in love with Tulia without any forms of deception? I mean, wasn't that an option as well? Just comes across as a bit of a plot hole, perhaps. And I'm not certain as to how much I can say I enjoyed the writing style because I grew bored on several occasions. And I was honestly about to drop this altogether, considering now that we have the DNF bookshelf on Goodreads. I wasn't about to finish this, but I was still curious to see how it would come to an end and how the characters' lives would just resolve. But we never got that altogether. Now, I did find Anatole's revenge to be satisfying to a certain extent, but even that really didn't work out in his favor, since he spent close to 100 years trapped in a dungeon. Now, the man that Tulia was meant to marry, right? Um, Dalrymple, I think he is called. Um, yeah, basically he had treated um, Anatole's crush horribly many years before, and of course Anatole needed revenge because there was embarrassment involved and just a lot of condescension. But yeah, ultimately the revenge didn't work out well, despite how hard Anatole tried to get his revenge. I suppose he did affect Dalrymple permanently, um, but other than that, he paid the consequences, and in quite a harsh way as well. I suppose the most important character is Luigi, who is basically a mouse or a rat, I'm not quite sure, since thanks to him, a potion for immortality, not invincibility, was found, and Anatole was able to share this tale with us. Although I kind of hope he didn't know. Um, I kind of hope he didn't. Now that I'm done with the book, I mean, I don't feel as though I'm a better person for having completed this book. The characters did not get the endings they deserved, and all is left to speculation. We have to connect the dots ourselves, which is honestly lazy writing, in my opinion. But then again, the way the book was written, it doesn't seem as though Lewis Sachar had much more of a choice with regard to the fact that Anatole is the narrator and the primary point of view within the story. Yeah, we are just met with a lot of hypothetical situations and guesses since Anatole is locked away in a dungeon, and we are only given his perspective after all. During their monk era, because at some point they take on the roles of monks as well, I was reminded of the book A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, which I completed a couple of months ago. But to be fair, the entirety of the story just felt disjointed, and there genuinely didn't seem as though there was any direction whatsoever. Many characters were assumed to have been fed to the tigers, and Anatole escaped this fate, considering that it's called The Magician of Tiger Castle. The plot steers away a lot from Tiger Castle, and honestly, the magic performed isn't very impressive. It's mostly just deception and BS. But yeah, this is advertised as Sacker's first book for more of a mature audience, and there are scenes which made me cringe considering their vulgarity and the insinuations, which is of course very unexpected from Sacker. After having read this, I feel as though Sacker should just stick to writing for children and young adults. But yeah, that was not exactly what I had in mind when it was released as a book for adults. I just thought there would have been more complex themes, more thought-provoking situations and plot points, compelling characters, and brilliant narration, but overall it just fell flat, and I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone. I completely understand why this isn't a very popular read, despite how popular of an author Lewis Sacker might be. And yeah, in Gordon Ramsay's words, what a shame, what an absolute shame, as a matter of fact. The most relevant theme is that of emasculation, it would seem, because Dalrymple um, drinks this sort of potion which makes his voice sound like that of a woman's, and of course, everyone seems to make fun of him, and everyone who opposes Dalrymple is immediately killed and fed to the tigers. But yeah, that just came across as the most important theme of revenge and emasculation. But yeah, revenge itself didn't seem to play that big of a role because Anatole just paid the price rather than getting his revenge and getting away with it. But most of the story just revolves around escaping and not particularly facing your fears the way that you are meant to, especially considering how knights are involved and how Tulia is such a fantastic um, female character, I suppose, a very well written female character. But yeah, I think that is all I had to say with regard to The Magician of Tiger Castle. Very disappointed. I would have expected better from such a renowned author. Um, and yeah, I do look forward to reading more by this author because I haven't read all of his books, but from what I've read by Lewis Sacker so far, this definitely seems to be the worst I've come across. It is just long-winded and doesn't really result in anything, which is a disappointment and a shame. But yeah, I at least now have a signed book by Louis Sachar himself and a sprayed edged book as well. But yeah, that's all I had to say. If you enjoyed my review, make sure to leave a like, comment, share, subscribe. Take a look at the rest of my content because why not? It's absolutely brilliant. And I'll see you in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care and bye, guys.